Welcome all to the July 10th board meeting. Before we get started, do a little work. We're losing one of our own. Janine Ray is moving back to
upstate New York.
Upstate New York. She'd like to let us right back there. She's going back to where the snow is snowy and cold and beautiful 1 month a year.
It's not 117 degrees now.
The heat index is probably part of that. So, you come up here, please. I appreciate it. We're doing something for appreciate it for outstanding dedication of volunteer services to the Yuma County Airport Authority. Janine, July 09 to July 12. So, we thank you very much. We're going to miss you. Our first woman board member. Hopefully not our last. Janine got on the board, and I think she's going to realize that. I know she's going to have that. I think she's going to. I know she's going to have that. And she got in the thick of things, which I appreciate her very much. And we're going to miss her. So, anything you want to say? No tears.
No, it's just been a privilege to be a part of this board and to be a part of something so positive for this community. And just the years that I've been on this board, I've just seen great things happen. And I want to apply who's not here. I guess he's still on vacation, but Craig has been a great leader from month to month, being able to convey the complex, detail-oriented concepts that we have to make decisions on, and he is really good at helping us visualize those things. And I just wanted to get that on record. At least he'll see that that I do appreciate having a leader that makes our job as board members that much easier to make those decisions. And just what he's done for our liaisons with the military is great. But I just feel that for the past few years this has been a big part of my life, because I feel like I've just done something very positive in this community just by acting on this board. I might just have to come back to see that runway taxiway, that we've been working on for a few years, because the fact that it's actually going to happen now, I don't know.
Well, like when you do your cross-country flying here and you land there.
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
We have one more presentation today. In the past, he's not been here, but I understand that Mr. Gould has a birthday. I'm friend of ours, I know that. So, we have a birthday cake for him over here. And Larry, I couldn't put all the candles on, we probably should have had. It would start an alarm. So, there you go. So when we sing Larry Gould, happy birthday, okay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Larry. Happy birthday to you. Thank you.
My wife still lives in Flagstaff. She just got promoted to department chair up there, so it'd be kind of hard for her to come down here and give up extra number of dollars. But having been down here for now almost 4.5 years, I can tell you Yuma is my family. My wife is kind of jealous of that at some point, but this year we couldn't work out to where we'd be together for my birthday or hers. But that's the way it goes. So thank you for being my family.
Happy birthday! Well, we have all. Public comment, open to the public. I have 3 today. Mitch Dunn.
Do I need to stand over at the podium?
I'd prefer if you would, please.
Okay. Well, notice from the other day, I usually speak off the cuff. First of all, good afternoon to the board and staff. Thank you for being here. I'd like to start off by commenting about how pleasant and productive the last meeting was, the strategy meeting, and wanted to give a compliment to Gladys for the way she ran that. I thought she did a fine job of it. And to Albert and the other board members who were here. It's a very good meeting, and I hope to see more of that in the future. During the last regular meeting, Mr. Benish spoke at length about civil discourse. I'm not going to use up my time, my 3 minutes, to respond to everything that he said in that meeting. But I think I'll just sum it up and say, I think the best thing that this board could do to create civil discourse and keep that going is to lead by example. And while I'm on the subject of leadership by example and civility, I want to take a second to recognize Colonel Workman. He's been with us for a year now, a little over a year, I believe. Not to single them out, because I know Gladys did a great job running the meeting last time too. But just want to compliment Colonel Workman. Amongst GA, he's actually built up a lot of trust and respect along with everybody else at the airport besides the GA pilots like myself. When people describe him, they use words like honest, trustworthy, respectful. He is viewed by most of us, many of us, all of us, as a person of high integrity. And if I could make one suggestion to this board, it would be, I think if his leadership role were expanded here at the airport, I think that would be very beneficial here in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Ken Scott?
I'll make mine kind of short and simple. I don't want to take the thunder out of the strategy meeting we just had, because again, it was a very good meeting, very strong. The only thing I could recommend to the committee is that go along with what the strategy meeting means. A few months back, it was put on record that I said I thought the airport was trying to hide something because we didn't have video cameras and they weren't being going out and everything. And Mr. Williams has done an excellent job of getting that up. My only suggestion would be that if we stop the censoring of the videos, be very transparent, like Mr. Williams says, if you build it, they will come. If you do that, it will eventually go away, or at least get down to a very low simmer. I looked on the June 12th meeting, it's on board right now, and I got to thinking, well, we had the meeting on the 6th, this is the 10th, that's not enough calendar days for the minutes to be there. So the June 12th meeting was censored, and again I say, so you guys be transparent to go with what Mitch said, lead by example. It'll work out well, because if anybody looks at our website, looks at your website, and they think, well, negative comments are being preempted, why? It brings questions. So why have it? Just, the strategy was great. Gladys did an excellent job. We will miss Janine, and if you can just, stop the censoring, I think that will solve a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Mr. Gammett?
Yeah, for the sake of not being redundant, I echo all those sentiments. I was pretty much going to talk about the same thing. There's a couple of agenda items that I think if we're given the opportunity to talk and speak to those specifically, I may elect to do that on the back end of the meeting, but I share the same sentiments that Mr. Dunn and Mr. Scott have just expressed.
Thank you. Minutes. Motion to approve the minutes as presented. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Regular agenda items. Since Janine has resigned, it's her last meeting, I have asked Dean Hager to take over his position as secretary. I'm not sure if I want to appoint, really made it, so I guess we could ask for a vote.
I make a motion to
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Dean, thank you very much for letting me take that position, I appreciate it. Well, you're my second choice. I was going to give you 2 jobs.
I was going to vote yes.
And Junior's away at a seminar, and Ray is sick, and so I think we have a financial report. I'm sure you all saw it in your Kindle. But Gladys, you want to kind of walk through things for us, please?
We'll go ahead and review on the screen for the report through the fiscal year of 2012. Here's our revenue. The non-aeronautical revenue. Personnel. Here are the operating expenses. Capital outlay. Our operating expenses and our working capital. Our restricted cash for the PFC, as well as for our notes payable. And then we do have 2 open grants right now, one with the ADOT and one with the EDA. And then now we'll go on for the strategy committee report.
Howard?
Mr. Carter.
We had a lot of fun at the strategy committee. I can tell you that. The first one was this roadmap for Ferguson, and I think that that's an important, very important one. What this roadmap's going to do for us, I believe, is kind of work our way through these capital improvements that we have on the board. And guys, I'd like to have you kind of go into these a little bit, but these are things that I believe are far more complicated than some of the things we've done, because they require, for instance, in the idea of taxiway Yankee, we can't just do it. It's going to be difficult to get the money. So I'd like to have you amplify on that a little bit.
The first discussion item of the validate the ACIP. A lot of the projects that were identified in the RSAT as far as safety and capacity issues are some things that the roadmap addresses. And everybody was able, hopefully, to read through that roadmap inside of your items. But it deals with improvements to the aprons, improvements to the pavement that's deteriorating, as well as allowing for more apron and ramp space on the airfield as well. The big item, of course, is taxiway Yankee. Right now, we're still working with the Marine Corps to resolve some of the real estate issues and just kind of go through that, because partial of that taxiway is developed on our property and a partial amount is developed on the Marine Corps' property. So we still have to get through that portion before we can go into looking at the funding. And the lobbyist group more so is developed, one, to get this underway with the roadmap that we like to adopt, but also to look at them going into DC and understanding where the discretionary funds lie, and of course our entitlements. As everyone's aware, our entitlements are only $1 million a year, and then we can carry over to the next year and then double up there, and typically do design one year, construct another. The estimate for the taxiway Yankee is about $10 million, because that's all concrete. So that's kind of where we're at with that, but we're still working through the real estate portion, which has been for the past few years. We let it go away for a little while, and then we brought it back just to revisit right now. And then the contract itself for the Ferguson Group, we did have a 5-month contract. Looks like it expires at the end of this month. And I think what we have there is the agreement was really initially for helping with the UAS, with that systems. But then what came up, of course, was the roadmap, and then looking how we can address the immediate RSAT as well. So now what we're looking at is seeing how they can help with us with the discretionary and understanding. He has 2 other members on his staff. One, a previous FAA assistant counsel, and the other, he used to formerly work for NAFAC. So it's helpful that he has experts on his side that help us lead the way too as far as applying and understanding and staying within there as well.
They're still going to work with us on UAS?
Yes, they are.
Okay. That's all been filed?
Say again?
UAS, that's all been filed?
Yes, and that's going to be in one of the next slides as well for the airport director's update.
Is an easement going to suffice?
The easement will suffice if it goes under as far as the agreement of the easement. And it stipulates, and it's something that we have to discuss further with the Marine Corps, and then not just with them, but to go down the line. So it has to go through the entire process, which isn't just here. That we go.
But if we get the easement, it can be structured so that it will qualify.
Yes. As long as it addresses all the issues and then the points that the FAA, as far as the funding goes.
So the bottom line is the contract with these guys is up within a month.
Correct.
All right. So other than the roadmap, which is kind of a generic document, are they proposing continuing services with us? And if so, do they put out specific goals and objectives
Their
that they
milestones.
have to obtain in order to get a check from this authority?
And that's something that can be discussed with those who form the committee. And that's the whole point of the negotiation portion, is to make sure you can negotiate that into their contract with milestones and markers so that it's an agreement. Right now what we did is we had a monthly kind of retainer, so that's what we did for the UAS. But to continue further on, when the committee meets together, you guys can stipulate in the negotiation process for the contract.
When will that process start?
Well, the idea was we would form a separate committee.
Within the planning committee?
Yeah. I'm not sure it had a name, but anyway, form a separate committee to work specifically with the Ferguson group on this ongoing, how they're going to handle that. So, and negotiate the price, which also. And so that's a committee you need to form to do that. But I think it's worthwhile working with these. I think one of the problems we have is some of the things that we really want to do here are not going to be high priority items for the FAA. They fall more into the capacity issue part than the safety. So safety, why, we look at safety as a pretty high priority item, but some of the things we're looking at may not fall under that, or may be far more complicated. And I think taxiway Yankee is a good example of a fairly complex situation that we can't just say, well, if we do this or we do that, we'll get taxiway Yankee. We need a lot of help in that area. So I think that's the committee's recommendation was that we continue to work with the Ferguson group and form a committee then to go ahead and
What is do it? Have to do it all at the end, one motion. That's part of the next topic.
Okay. The next topic was the ground lease for Big Easy. Are we talking about Big Easy?
No.
No, we're not. Okay. Big Easy has already been built and is functioning. These are, we're going to call this Big Adventure, I guess. But we talked about this at length, and as you know, Mr. Alberti brought up the point that it would be really a nice idea if we had 12 new T-hangers in that area to the west of the Road D now. But I worked with Junior and Gladys extensively on this, and we also had a bid from Mr. Sims to build those, and it's not economically feasible to build those and rent them with the same rent that we're getting for Road D. We just could not make the payments. Mr. Sims offered to relocate his Big Adventure hangers to the old Jamar area, now that Border Patrol and those guys have moved out. But that area is not suitable for building without some upgrades in the ramp and potentially utility access and maybe other things we don't know. And so we would have to have money for that. And so we were looking at we would lay out more money than we would get back if we don't do anything other than let him continue to go ahead and build the 4 big venture hangars, which he's fully prepared to do, and the board's already signed the lease. So the community's recommendation is that we not mess with that situation any longer. Let's go ahead and
I hear Mr. Albert is referencing those as big adventure hangars. I think that's some that have already been built. This is big.
Yeah, I think that's the name of his entity. I think he's calling it entity big venture hangar. So
I just wanted to make sure we didn't get a misunderstanding on
this is the same Sims group that did the other hangars. So
4 hangars west of Row D. That's where you go. Okay, so that was the committee's recommendation there, and the next one that we looked at was the idea of signing the development agreement between the city and the airport to defer impact fees until Freeman Holdings spec hangar, I guess we'll call it, Amelia Earhart hangar, gets built. And this is kind of a new idea where normally they built something, used it right away, and paid whatever impact fees were due. In this particular case, they're asking that they simply put up a shell until they get a certificate of occupancy that those impact fees be deferred until they get a tenant. And so we thought that was a good idea. We would do the same for anybody here who had a 2-phase development. We would recommend the same thing be done, so that they can. And what this does for the airport is this means we don't have to build a ramp, which would be at our expense, to get access into that hangar until they find a tenant. So they defer their impact fees and pay them when they get a tenant. We don't have to put the ramp in until they get a tenant, and maybe we'll get grant funding to pay for that as opposed to paying for it out of our working capital. So I think this is a win-win proposition. The committee recommended that be done.
one thing we need to understand is that the development fees are still due, but they're not due until a tenant has been identified and they finish the hangar and they notice of occupancy. At that point in time, the fees are paid. So all that's been happening is instead of fees being paid in the front end, which our construction, I mean, they pay the back end, usually the same amount of money.
I'd like to just emphasize one point that came out of that committee, and that's, to be quite honest, this is the first shot that we've ever tried to do this. I think it's great working with the city to continue to encourage additional investment down here and taking a slight risk, within this community. And if this works out, it works out well. Anybody that wants to come in and try this two-phase approach, I think the board would be very favorable towards that. This is a good shot. I really hope it works out well. And if it does, it provides a template for anybody that wants to bring some business in.
Okay. Next item on the agenda.
We had some other discussion, but I think it probably could be handled just as a regular agenda rather than a committee thing.
Okay, so you have a motion from your committee?
Yeah, these others were more housekeeping. This particular one, for instance, where Enterprise wants an entity name change.
That's all housekeeping.
So
the prior stuff you went over, do we need any kind of motion on those?
The only other one that I thought that maybe was a little bit that needs some discussion on was the minutes. We discussed and came up with that, so we can handle that later.
Right here.
Okay. We looked at this to a great degree, and there's been a lot of discussion on the minutes, and we looked at the expense that's related to this, the things that we're accomplishing, and I believe the committee's consensus was that anybody who really is interested in filming them is already doing it. The board is already filming them. We have one camera here that takes them, and that the committee's recommendation is that we continue to film the minutes as we are with this camera, that we no longer take the transcription, as Michelle is doing. We post the unedited uncensored, however, whatever words you want to use, video on the web, and that we keep a copy here. If someone wants a copy, they can inspect our copy, they can buy a copy from us, whatever the procedure would be. And the board goes back to having the secretary and staff prepare a summary of the minutes, as we've always done in the past, and quit the expense. And it appears that the public, as Mr. Scott indicated, looks at the video on the site and says, looks good. So that's our recommendation.
The proposal is that we continue video, but have it uncensored as to any content, and that we keep the minutes as we've done in the past with the secretary, and that we cancel any further transcription by an outside person.
Correct.
Your motion. Do you need a motion that, Wayne?
Do you have a motion scheduled later on?
Okay, Wayne, thank you. Appreciate it. Next.
The update. The EDA grant for the Aviation Industrial Center, just so everyone's aware, today we did the bid opening, and that happened today. It'll be about probably within the end of the month, at the start of August, that we're looking at possibly starting the construction, and then of course the ribbon cutting in the future of probably about April, May timeframe. Just so everyone's aware, the low bidder as of right now is Eckard Construction, which is a Yuma firm. Of course, it still needs to be verified by the architect and approved by EDA. So those are a couple of steps that that we're required to take. The bid price was a little bit over $5 million. This does exceed the budget that we had planned. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to look at the deducts inside the bid. We have 6 or 7 different deducts. And here, just to give you an idea, we have 7 deducts, ranging from a variation in the fire suppression all the way down to benches out front. And the fire suppression is more of going from the standard overhead versus the fire suppression that you'll see on the Marine Corps side, which is the suppression as far as from the ground up. So they have a different type of foam, AFFF system. So right now, though, for the deducts, it appears that even if you take the deducts off, Eckard right now still would be the low bidder.
What was our budget?
So, yeah, the budget was a little right under $5 million, but you also have to factor in the design cost and the construction side. So we'd like to be under that number. So for the next steps, of course, you have to get the EDA approval. Of course, the award contract to the contractor. We have to give them necessary time frame to achieve or receive and attain the bonds. Sign the contract with the contractor. Of course, give the notice to proceed, and then the construction will start. So typically, that takes, just for awarding the bid, you give them 5 days, another 10 days in between there for the bonds, and then ensure that their insurance is in place, and then we can go from there. But of course, there's pre-con meetings and such that have to take place prior to the meeting, prior to the construction beginning. Do you guys have any questions as far for the AIC, the Aviation Industrial Complex?
What's the expected construction time frame?
The construction time frame, I think we gave them 8 months, 8 to 10 months. I have to look again. Junior asked me the question as well
So
today.
in the first quarter of 2013, correct?
That's correct. May, I would say May.
Yeah, second quarter.
May of 2013 is the second quarter. Okay.
And when we get it all built, all these up, right, Jen?
That's right.
Hopefully before it's finished being built. That's the objective, is to build and find at the same time. All right.
Okay.
Next one was the GA committee. There was a question for discussion by Mr. Rice.
Yes. My feeling was that with some comments from GA and other people that perhaps we ought to look at forming, or as Larry said, maybe use the personnel committee as kind of a grievance committee to say, okay, if the decision is made here at this board or with Greg or somebody, that there is a way to go beyond that and have somebody else take a look at that decision. It can be done very simply, but the application isn't going to be verbal. It will have to be in writing. Set up some kind of a formal thing like we've done here with speaking to the call to the public. I just think it's a way to reach out to GA. They've been unhappy with some decisions that have been made. Very honestly, there's been a couple that I've had some concerns about, but I think it would be a good thing to have.
If we were to expand the charge to the Community and Public Relations Committee to cover some of this, it would save us creating another committee.
Right.
So if we expanded that charge, but if we were to both front load and back load this, in other words, allow an opportunity outside of a big board meeting for people to come and express concerns. And a good example of this was the numbering down at Raleigh Field. What's the man's name?
McDermott. Jim McDermott.
Thank you. I'm getting old, as you may well have noticed. I mean, he brought something up in that committee meeting, and within 14 days, it was fixed. But it's outside of the intensity that we sometimes experience here. So that's front loading. The back loading would be another place, or a place where people could come and say, look, folks, I know you made a decision. Could you rethink this? Or could you, next time this comes up, could you think about other alternatives, whatever. But it would also give an opportunity to the committee members to reach out to the GA community by going out and looking at issues in the hangars, doing walkthroughs, meeting people, hearing things as informally as the law allows, and bringing that to the attention of the board. I would be glad to take on that responsibility. I think, Dean, you're on there, aren't you? You showed up at the committee meeting. What committee? This is the Community and Public Relations.
Okay, yeah. So then we add this other function to that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was taken off of that.
Well, maybe you were.
Yeah, I think so.
But
I don't
the structure of that committee is we have both practitioners in the GA community and non-practitioners, so there's some balance there as well.
I would just ask that, first of all, I think it's a great venue, but if we're defining GA, is anybody in the body public that has a comment or a grievance or a suggestion? We have several customers and community organizations that we serve, not just pilots. When I hear GA, I keep thinking pilots are plane owners. That's not necessarily true, but that's the image. We've got folks that rent on base here. We've got commercial air. We've got individual passengers and business people. Big ag comes through here, and I think anybody that would that needs a venue to communicate, I think that's an excellent idea.
And I think that point is well taken. Thank you.
The action that takes to modify that committee to include that task.
I don't think there needs to be any formal action by the board if you have a consensus that one is in charge of that committee. You can direct the staff to undertake that.
Let's do that then.
I have a question. How would you publicize that if you want the scope to be a little bit more broader than, as Mr. Hager said, to encompass not just GA? How would you go ahead and?
So I think we would need to pull together the committee, invite comment from the public, not just, as Dean said, not just the GA, but anybody, and see how they feel would be one of a multitude of portals to access airport authority, get our attention. It could be, it's any number of ways to do this. But put together the committee and see what suggestions we can come up with, get some ideas from staff, and then put together a little package for a recommendation to the board.
Another question. Would the committee act as an adjudicator in conflicts then too?
I'm not sure that you're going that direction.
No.
Okay, good.
I think you know, it'll be a conduit to make sure that all voices are heard. It could make recommendations about things, but an adjudicator, no. That adjudication, I think, if we ever go in that direction, is more strategy than it is just public relations.
I think the idea there is to instill a dialogue between the board itself and outside members of the board. That they could have questions raised after a meeting about something that the board took, so a place to take it. I think if you're more on the idea. Everybody have an issue with that? Problems with that? Have staff put it together? Thank you very much.
There was the previous, at one of the board meetings, about the FAA complaint that has a list of other names on there besides Mr. Collins as well. Just so everybody's aware, I think there's envelopes for the documentation as far as what the FAA provided to us. Just so you know, what we're looking at doing is have some good faith efforts to resolve the situation. So the airport director is looking at sending out invitations to each of those stated on there that filed, and to schedule a meeting to try and resolve the issue. And just have that discussion with them and see if there's something that we can do with respect to the various complaints that were on there. So once again, it's more of the good faith efforts to do that as far as what was filed there.
A couple of board members have expressed interest in having an executive session at this meeting. You still want to do that? Okay. So we'll do an executive session after the meeting.
Couple of highlights here. We're going to go through a series here for the marketing and the community outreach that we've been doing these past month and a half. Everyone saw in the newspaper, we have some homecomings, of course, of the Wounded Warrior. Of course, the staff and the MCC, as well as some board members, came down to greet them and tell them thank you, as well as about 100 others, including YPG, the Marine Corps Air Station, military affairs, and other veteran groups. It was pretty neat to see him come home and be able to go home for a few days of R&R for rest and relaxation for those. All right. We also had another homecoming, of course, of the fastest high school kid around, Bernie. So that was pretty neat to, again, get visited by a lot of high school students who were motivating him and encouraging him and appreciating him for what he did out in New York. Other great things. These are all of our future leaders, so this is why we also highlighted the Southwest High School. They went on to a competition in Orlando and they brought home some medals, which was great, and these are students out of El Centro. And mind you, they flew out of Yuma, so that's a great thing too. They came on over to fly out. A couple of great things that Jen gets to do, of course, is the taking flight segments that are filmed, which of course shows your airport at work. A couple of improvements that we've made over the time here. Of course, the Civil Air Patrol. Those who are on the flight line, if you haven't seen the oil disposal area, that's up there too. And of course, the facility now occupied by Millionaire, from Betco to Millionaire. And those are times that you can view it if you like. And then, of course, the City News Now. Here are some topics that were covered. The hangar, the Amelia Earhart hangar, the Aviation Industrial Center, Taxiway Zulu, which is going to happen here, the aprons, the expansion in the sterile area for the restrooms, NASA coming, as well as the dedication with, of course, we pointed out there, Jim pointed out there for us, the city with the future, which we all most definitely believe in. We've been doing a lot more public relations and media involvement with Fox 9 with interviews. Of course, they went through the second annual, as well as for the MCC, as well as for the ADOT for the modification to the sterile area. We also get featured in the Arizona Aviation Journals. And typically, Mr. Stevens highlights all the great things that are happening at different airports across the state. And so we're very fortunate that he places a lot of our articles that are in the Yuma Sun or that are sent over to him. He places them in the Aviation Journal. We also have our airport tenants being involved with the community, which is great. With a Visitors Bureau, looked at Hub Grub Grill, which is downstairs, as well as Millionaire joining their membership. So that's nice to see, is that our tenants that are on the airfield are getting involved in the community and joining different organizations. We also encourage our tenants to go in and be involved, and they actually, the owners of Millionaire went down to the community, with the community at the Chamber Mixer, just to kind of talk and speak with everybody, those that they were able to meet. So this is a list of busy items that are done. I mean, Jen takes a lot of time in making sure that she attends these and schedules well to also attend all the current meetings here at the airport. She does a great deal of work for me, especially during the construction phases of projects, because she takes a lot of my information that I have to record. But this is what she does as well on top, and what we do as the airport to get out there. Here's some upcoming events. We did have our annual meeting with ADOT and the FAA this morning. ADOT came in to meet with us, but the FAA did a telecon. The big thing that we're excited about too coming up in the next week is the NASA, as far as the NASA load and their conference and their drop. Jen, if you can, just really quickly talk about some of the fun, exciting things that are going to happen here in the next couple of weeks.
So the NASA advanced crew is already showing up this week. They'll, the majority of them will show up on Friday. On Monday, they will load their parachute test vehicle, which is the PTV, it's the capsule-looking type vehicle. They will load that into a C-17 and get that prepared so that it can drop on a Wednesday out at YPG. On Tuesday, NASA's been very gracious and asked us if they can hold their pre-test conference meeting here in our airport terminal. And this one's going to be pretty special because media from Houston and Dallas will also be here. So it's a great tie-in to what we're doing with our quest with the FAA, DOD, NASA. It's a great tie-in, and a little bit of national media attention. And then, of course, NASA was very gracious to let us invite all of our local media so that they can, showcase us as well in the community. So lots of exciting things next week. I'm really happy.
We just decided to put in a quick slide for everyone here. Legendary figures that landed in Yuma in 1929, of course, is the Eckard. So a couple of great things, just so everybody's aware that she came in here at one of the first races, ended up staying a day or so extra, a little more than that, just to get a propeller repaired, and then to turn around and place in third. This past week, it was the 75th anniversary of her disappearance. Hopefully she's on an island enjoying. But the nice thing is, just so everyone's aware, that the new hangar that's built in the DCC is going to be named after her, and that will be the Amelia Earhart hangar. So if everyone's aware, it's the new one that's being built by Millionaire. Taxiway Zulu, the widening, phase 1, just so everyone's aware, those who are out there, just to kind of keep you updated. The first phase is actually going to put a closure on Zulu 3. And so traffic will be redirected onto Zulu 2, onto Zulu, and proper barriers and notification will be issued out for that, as well as we'll make sure on Facebook and on Twitter that things like that are posted, and hopefully those who need to keep up to date, who have those accounts, can also see that. So we're going to try to put as much information, make sure we distribute what we can, or everything that we can, to ensure that all those who fly in and out of that area are aware of the closure. The UAS update, just so everyone's up to speed, we actually did send the request for information from the ACA, and thanks to Mr. Hager and Mr. Gorley, they did a huge write-up and edit, and they met with each other for hours, starting early morning till midday. So we really appreciate the time they took to put that together. As well as tomorrow, we're going to do a phone conference at 1:30 just to kind of touch base with them and see if there's additional information they may need. But most definitely, the staff here appreciates all of the time invested from Mr. Hagner and Mr. Boyd.
Hey, I read their report. It was very impressive what Dean and Stanley did. They took what Craig had done and really modified based on their experience. Very fortunate to have that kind of experience on board here to understand UAS and how the government deals with that kind of stuff. So they kind of put a little spin on it. One of the things that was going on here additionally was at the Yuma project, was their concern that we were kind of pitting ourselves against the rest of the state. So it's now become basically in their wording, it's a statewide project. All the assets are Yuma assets, but there's no name on it per se, the Yuma project. So they felt that we see better of Phoenix, and they have some tricks up their sleeve that if the Phoenix rather go around us, they've got some things they can do to make sure that we stay at the forefront. So I'm very, very grateful, and I think we have our RFI in good hands as it goes through the wonders of Phoenix and from there on.
Yeah, good job, man.
We have an ADOT grant for the terminal modification. The grant was for $180,000. We're looking at, we had to do some modifications this month with equipment sizes, so we had to rearrange the sterile as well. So that since we're relocating with the restrooms and the TSA equipment, we had to go back and make some modifications with the architect. So we're hoping that we can look at bidding that at the end of July after ADOT takes a look at the 100%, and then be able to construct and get that out of the way before we have our heavier traffic season, which is typically in the winter. And then we also have Mr. Ewing's lease. Just so everyone's aware, the request was made for another 1-year extension for the aircraft sales FBO. And the staff does recommend to approve it with the condition just to try to consolidate and assist Mr. Ewing with whatever he needs from us, just so that we can take all his aircraft and place it in a footprint. Just needs to be adjusted slightly to accommodate his aircraft that's on the ramp right now. So still have him here, but just take most of his aircraft and place it down on that south ramp. Vehicle access update. Just so you're aware, we did receive notification from the headquarters of the Marine Corps as far as the vehicle policy. Right now they say that the current policy that we have, that they accept. So they sent a letter over to verify or confirm that, and that what they'll do is they will confirm and triannual reviews to ensure that that policy is one being implemented and that it still is, it suffices as far as the requirement goes. The only difference is if the threat level goes up, we'll have to do what we previously did as far as ensuring each gate, as far as the security goes, if they move up in levels, we have to accommodate those threat levels as the Marine Corps places those out. So.
Do you have any comment at all?
No, I don't. I did appreciate it. It's great.
At this time, I can most definitely answer any questions that you have, any concerns that you need me to address.
I have one comment on Mr. Ewing's request to extend that lease. Mr. Ewing's been a long time tenant of the airport here and very, very important in contributing to the growth of the airport. So I'm glad to see that we're making an accommodation for that. And I think it will be important to get as many aircraft as possible down in the south ramp, but to extend that. Hopefully they'll get sold at some or fly away or something. I'm glad to see it.
Any other questions for Gladys? Anything else?
I have a question with one point. Back in May, not only the strategy committee, but it was supposed to come to the full board in June. It was a minor oversight. It was caught in the minutes and acknowledged
by Craig. He was going to bring it up in the July meeting, but obviously it's not here today. It had to do with back when we were discussing security and badging, and it was stated in the strategy meeting that we reaffirmed that the director has the authority to, upon notification of a threat or a potential threat, to pull a badge of any person. However, the committee thought, and it was concurred, that there should be a procedure in place for an appeal. And no procedure was in place. It was agreed to that we would have that. And I just wanted to say that Craig did acknowledge that, got an email back on that, and I believe the staff is working on that. We should be able to provide that next meeting.
August meeting, agenda item, please.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Anybody else? Kerwix, any good news for us?
I have no good news for you, but I have no bad news for you.
I'll ask the same question I asked last month. F-35 on track?
It is on track. It's looking great. We're going to be getting them in the fall.
Good.
The two large hangars in the brand new ones. One of them is pretty much completed, and the other one is almost done. Simulator building should be finished by the end of the month.
So they all get landed over there. There's a big invite for us to go over.
There will be all sorts of
Veteran feel.
I
Yeah.
don't know about that. There'll be lots of festivities and jumping up and down and celebrations, I'm sure.
Good. Let's get back to that, Janine.
Hey.
None of those in New York, so you got to come here and see one.
You know, that's one of the biggest things I'm going to miss. I've been looking forward to that for years. If we started talking about it, now I'm not going to see them come in.
So we'll send you a
You probably hear it though.
Yeah, well, I hear that they're a little louder. So
When the snow piles up and you come down here to be a snowbird, we get you on the trainer.
okay, sounds good.
Thank you, girl. I appreciate it. Public comment?
I'd like to make a comment if I could. From start to finish, this meeting has been, in my opinion, fantastically positive. And actually kind of stunned and shocked the item brought up by Mr. Price, and was pleasantly surprised. And I think that's a great idea, and it seems like it's being well received by the other board members. And I just think that's a great development. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? There's a motion before the board. Action item. Motion. Second. There's a motion for the roadmap purchasing group. Then a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. This is for sign a ground lease, Big Adventure Hangar. Is that what it's called?
He's Big Adventure, he's a Big Adventure Construction, but Big Adventure Hangars,
Big
correct?
Adventure Hangars is what
For the
business name
LLC?
is.
Okay.
But it's on, this one's on building, what's going to be called E.
Building.
Okay, Building E. You'll modify it to say Building E.
Correct.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I did.
Double agreement between the airport and the city and county of Yuma. There'll be an Eckard hangar. This is we're the front person on this with Millionaire.
So moved.
Second.
Been a first and a second. Anybody? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And this is, I think it's just it appears to me that Enterprise Rental Car changed the name of the entity that has the lease downstairs. So they are approval to change the lease. Any motion on that?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you all. Okay, this was the strategy committee's motion to modify our current policy, taking minutes to include information of executive summaries and the production of an unedited video to be included in our website. Been a first and a second.
All right, I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. This is for the contract for Eckard Construction for the airport industrial complex, not to exceed $5 million. These are on final approval by the airport staff, airport council, and economic development administration. A motion to approve this.
I just have a question. When you had the deducts, is that all or none? Or could you take out?
No, you can take out, you can pick which ones that, that you'd like to deduct from. So.
That's what I thought.
That's
okay,
correct.
So when you say that you take out the deducts, Eckard is a little bit, that's only if you take them all out from everybody.
No, even when you consider each of the deducts.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They're not, it's within marginal,
Okay.
comparison to them, but he still seems to appear right now to be the low bidder. And then it's all based on what is suitable to deduct. You know, what do you want to deduct?
Who makes that decision?
Who makes that decision? The architect goes and provides the recommendation and says, if you want to go, what is the number that you're looking at? If that's the case, these are essential. These are non-essential items that probably are more aesthetic that we can replace with something that will suffice. And so it's just a reduction in the price. So that's why they're considered deducts.
Could you value engineer them?
No, at this time we have no proposals for value engineering.
Oh, so you're not authorized to do that?
No, that's the benefit of deducts. The deducts are almost as if you have some form of value in engineering. So instead of them allowing them to make the recommendation, you can take that off. Correct.
I think you just made my point. Shouldn't it say approval or opinion approval to include the architect?
The airport staff.
Yes.
Council.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I
It did earlier.
Okay.
So add the wording in there for architect. Thank you very much.
I don't think so.
Yes, the award.
We have a motion?
I have Rob.
Second.
Motioning and James.
We have a motion, we have first and second. Moved by Bob Corbett, seconded by Dean Hager. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.
I think you wanted to go into.
Yes, we're going to executive session, so give everybody 5 minutes and then we'll reopen.
Join? Yes.
We're waiting.